Hey everyone, how's it going? Back again with another video this week. This week I want to share a little bit of a story about something that's been happening with one of my clients that I've been working with, and just to share some experience, insights, what it's like coaching, and just give you a little bit of behind the scenes, picture as to how it is to work with me and my thoughts, opinions, and how I coach people. So recently, actually, I've been working with this client for several years at this point, and they're a model client, honestly. I'm not just saying that because they might hear it. I truly believe they are a model client. All my clients are very, very good, but this one in particular has been with me the longest and is really, is bought all in, is very dedicated to their health. And really, I couldn't ask anything more from this person. But a little more than a little less than a year ago, we had some initial success. Just backing up even further than that, when we first started working together a couple of years ago, we had some initial success in their primary goal is weight loss. We had some very good initial success losing weight, and not only seeing weight come down on the scale, but pictures looked fantastic. They were getting compliments from other people, people that hadn't seen them in a while on how good they looked. Clothes were fitting fantastic. Everything was going great, And then all of a sudden, they went away on vacation, came back, got sick, was sick for a while. And then after that, everything were doing that was working fantastically before, which again is, my coaching is primarily focused around lifestyle practices, right? We're not doing anything secret or fancy or crazy here. It's, eat a diet that's primarily whole foods, focus on getting as much good sleep as you possibly can, preferably in that 7 to 8 hour range, exercise enough, during the week. And this person loves to exercise actually, and is very enthusiastic about it, never misses a workout. So that was never a problem. Neither was the eating whole foods problem. Their diet was spectacular. They'd done everything from track calories for me. They had taken pictures of all their food. And, I couldn't really nitpick anything about that. And they were making fantastic progress, focusing on all the big lifestyle stuff with the stress and sleep and nutrition and exercise. All that stuff was in line. They were putting 100% effort into it, and they were seeing the progress they wanted. And then, like I said, they went on vacation, came back, got sick, was out for a couple of weeks, just down and out for a couple of weeks due to the illness. And then all of a sudden things started to stop working. The weight loss stalled. It started to reverse. They were putting on weight. And at first I was like, well, let's just give this some time. Let's give it a couple weeks here as we kind of iron out, get back into the groove of things after being on vacation, being sick and whatnot. And still we weren't, seeing the progress that we like. And we were reversing the weight loss, etc. Went through the holidays and tried to keep things stable. And for the most part, things were stable over the holidays. They eventually stabled out, but the weight that they had put back on wasn't coming off, even though, post holidays, they were putting in all the effort, same nutrition, same stuff that we're doing before, just wasn't budging. The one thing about this person, like a lot of my clients, they have, jobs and family life are a priority. And this particular person has a very stressful job which involves some long hours, also a lot of meetings with clients where they are eating out during these meetings, etc. So my thought was, oh, maybe there's something going on with nutrition from a restaurant point of view, even though it really hadn't changed much, but let's try and see if anything from there. So they were sending me, okay, I have these meetings. We're going to these restaurants. I would take a look at the menu. I would pick out, okay, I would say, get this thing, give them options as to what to choose. When they went to the meetings, we did that for a while. I actually enjoyed it because it's cool to see. They work in New York City, so it's cool to see all the nice food they get exposed to. So even trying to find healthy food at most of the restaurants is not really an issue, honestly. And, I suggested all the usual stuff about when we're eating out at restaurants, if there's any sauces or dressings or anything like that, get that on the side, try to stick to grilled meats, just veggies, any kind of starch is going to be like a baked potato, that type of stuff. I pulled all the tricks out of my hat, and they followed them to the T. Actually really enjoyed it. They enjoyed it and I enjoyed it as well. But still, we weren't seeing the progress that we had hoped. And, finally I was kind of like at a loss, to be honest with you. I was like scratching my head. I'm like, everything seems spot on. Steps look pretty good. They weren't like the highest ever, but they were definitely not low. Sleep could be a challenge sometimes, but it wasn't, 100% terrible all the time. So there were some things that we could improve, but nothing that like what stood out to me is like, we're going to be able to make massive changes here by tweaking this one thing, or this is obviously the thing that's causing this roadblock for us. Until one day I was talking to my coach about the situation, just trying to poke other people and see, you know, sometimes you get stuck and sometimes you just need a fresh perspective. And I was poking my coach and asking him about, what he would do in this situation, etc. And he's like, have you tried fasting with this person? And I said, no, honestly, I haven't tried fasting. We had done some protein sparing modified fasts in the past, and that seemed to be okay. But, at the moment we're really doing any fasting. And, you know, my opinions on fasting aren't always like the most favorable, to be honest with you. I'm not like fasting is not something that I jump to with every client. It's not something I try to make people do. It's not something I do myself. I used to do a lot with past, but I've had some bad experiences with it. It's not that I think that fasting is inherently bad. I think that long term, it's hard to stick to. Long term, it can cause some problems if people get, married to the idea of always having to fast. I see issues with protein intake. I see people who are already eating too few calories, also fasting. So there, in my view, in my world, I see a lot of, over reliance on fasting that probably is not necessarily benefiting a lot of people. So it's not my go-to thing, when I first, work with someone, certainly. But, we had tried so many other things and I was willing to, let's give it a shot. And this client was, as always, just willing to try anything, right? And it has an open mind and a willingness to explore different options. They generally like fasting. They, have had some success in the past, so they were open minded to it. So we just started doing I just told them to pick, one day where it seemed the least intrusive to do a simple 24-hour fast, right? I wouldn't necessarily start off with a 24-hour fast for everyone because, sometimes it takes a little bit for you to build up to that amount. But for this person, I worked for them long enough and known them long enough that I knew that 24-hour fast was fine for them to start with. And we did that for no more than 4 weeks. And at our last check-in call, they told me they were down 8 pounds. And I was beyond ecstatic, right? I was so happy that finally we had found some kind of tweak in their lifestyle that was reversing the course of this weight that they had worked so hard to take off in the first place and inexplicably had put back on. And to be honest with you, I can't tell you why this, 24-hour fast has made such a huge improvement in this person. I really wish I knew. I'm so into the science and I could, somehow explain all the stuff. And you can obviously come up with theories about, all what happens with fasting and et cetera, that might cause, successful weight loss in people. But ultimately, like the only thing that I know that we know about fasting and why it works is that you put yourself in a caloric deficit and it works. And so I'm super happy that we've seen this progress and and obviously they're very happy as well. And it just speaks to the importance of a couple things here. I just want to address a couple things is the importance of having an open mind, both from, in this crazy world of health, right? And being open to different approaches that even if your own bias is like, this probably is not going to make a huge difference. Sometimes it makes sense to give it a try. And that's what I did. My own bias is like, I don't really see this making a big difference, but it can't hurt to try it. Right. And it did make a huge difference. So I was completely wrong. And also they were ecstatic. They like it. It's hard, obviously, to fast for 24 hours. I mean, this person has a family. etc. So, like sitting at dinner with your family and not eating is not something I take lightly. Being a parent and a father, I wouldn't like necessarily enjoy that either. But, it's not something I ask someone to do that has a family lightly. It's not that easy to do that. But, as a client being open to trying something, just, to see if it's effective or not. As a coach, being open-minded to trying approaches that you may not be your first line of, what's the word I'm looking for here? First line of just your gut feeling as to what to do first with someone. And also I made sure to have discussions with this person that this isn't a forever thing. It isn't a every single week thing. Right now, we're trying to be pretty consistent about it because we're just, only a couple weeks in. But eventually, obviously, we want to have some flexibility. And like, if they want to have dinner with their family or whatever, they can't find a specific time during the week to fit in the 24-hour fast because of social obligations and stuff like that. Obviously we're going to skip out on that stuff. And so I'm trying to stress the importance of flexibility when it comes to the restrictions like fasting and stuff like that. But keeping an open mind that maybe that's what this person needs and that's what this person's body likes. Obviously, clearly you're helping. So you can't, debate the results, but as to the reason as to why, I can't necessarily explain it other than there's a caloric deficit somewhere that's causing the weight loss. I mean, you don't eat for 24 hours. I mean, you would expect to be in caloric deficit. So I just want to share that experience with this client. I wanted to share my approach to coaching. I wanted to share being wrong. I wanted to share, the willingness both from a coach and a client to be open-minded about trying different things. And sometimes those things surprise you with results that you weren't expecting. And that's awesome. Like, I'm super happy and super excited and obviously very humbled by it. So if that resonates with you, cool. Let me know. If you have some experiences with fasting you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments below. As always, I'm always happy to get feedback, comments, and just share tips and tricks that other people have.